that today we're offering a special ceremony in honor of our beloved teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who has made it through 2 years of, he passed away 2 years ago. I don't know how I want to say that, but in the Buddhist tradition, when a teacher has been gone for 2 years, he becomes an ancestor. And there's a special ceremony for honoring his place as an ancestor, which is what we are doing today. So this ceremony is celebrated all over the world. Plum Village community, which has monasteries and followers all over the world. Thich Nhat Hanh is now known as the fifth patriarch of the Tu Hui Temple, which is his root temple, and he is also the founder of the Plum Village Sangha. If you have taken the 5 mindfulness trainings, you received a certificate that also tells you that Thai is the 42nd generation of the Lam Te school and the 8th generation of the Liu Quan school. The life of a teacher continues in the life of his students and spiritual descendants. According to the teachings of the Buddha, the peace and the joy of the student are the peace and the joy of the teacher and spiritual ancestors. The calm, clarity, and peace we generate today are both a manifestation of Thai's love and our expression of our spiritual support and love for him. We will invite 3 sounds of the bell and share a reading on the discourse of love, one of the Buddha's 2,600-year-old teachings that resonates within us as if it were written yesterday. Please listen with a calm mind as the discourse is read. In this case, we will hear it on a CD, and then it will be followed by 15 minutes of silent meditation. Listen, listen to this wonderful sound, bringing us back to our true home.
Someone who wants to attain peace should practice being upright, humble, and capable of using loving speech. They will know how to live simply and happily, with senses calmed, without being covetous and carried away by the emotions of the majority. Let them not do anything that will be disapproved of by the wise ones.
May everyone be happy and safe, and may all hearts be filled with joy. May all beings live in security and in peace. Beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in perfect tranquility.
May all beings happy and free. May all beings transform their suffering. May all beings rejoice in all joys. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be happy and free. May all beings transform their suffering. May all beings rejoice in all joys. May all beings be at peace.
Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one, out of anger or ill will, wish anyone any harm.
May all beings be happy and free. May all beings transform their suffering. May all beings rejoice in all joy. May all beings be at peace.
Just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her own life, cultivate boundless love to offer to all living beings in the entire cosmos. Let our boundless love pervade the whole universe, above, below, and across. Our love will know no obstacles. Our heart will be absolutely free from hatred and enmity.
May all beings be happy and free. May all beings transform their suffering. May all beings rejoice in all joys. May all beings be at peace.
Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying, as long as we are awake, we should maintain this mindfulness of love in our own heart. This is the noblest way of living, free from wrong views, greed, and sensual desires, living in beauty and realizing perfect understanding. Those who practice boundless love will certainly transcend birth and death.
Thai's life is a manifestation of the essence of the discourse on love. Throughout his life, Thai watered and nourished the bodhicitta of so many people, their heart and mind of love, what is best in them. May Thai's efforts skillfully continue through us, through our sanghas, as Thai's continuation. As we practice our sitting meditation, sitting upright yet not rigid, eyes closed or slightly opened in an unfocused gaze, whichever you'd like. You'll hear several bells throughout the sitting meditation before it will be completely silent. And each of those bells can be just that point of mindfulness to remember that we too are this continuation of discourse on love, happiness, peace, joy, and freedom in our own lives and the lives of others, nurtured through our mindfulness. beings be free. May all beings be joyful. May all beings be at peace. Brahma Vihara Maitri. Brahma Vihara Karuna. Brahma Vihara Mudita. Brahma Vihara Upeksha. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May all beings be joyful. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be at peace.
Thank you, dear Sangha, for that lovely meditation. I'm going to read a few excerpts from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The Art of Living. He says, we have a tendency to think that we have a separate self that is born at one moment and must die at another, and that is permanent during the time we are alive. As long as we have this wrong view, we will suffer. We will continue suffering for those around us. We will create suffering for those around us, and we will cause harm to other species and to our precious planet. We are not limited to our physical body, even when we are alive. We are with our ancestors, our descendants, and the whole cosmos. We don't have a separate self. We are never really born, and we never really die. We are interconnected with all life, and we are always in transformation. Can you see how you are connected in your parents, in your brothers and sisters, in your teachers and friends? Can you see the continuation body of your parents and loved ones? We don't need to get old or die in order to see our continuation body. We don't need to wait for the complete disintegration of this body in order to begin to see our continuation body. Just as a cloud doesn't need to have been entirely transformed into rain in order to see her continuation body. Can you see your rain, your river, your ocean? Each one of us should train ourselves to see our continuation body in the present moment. If we can see our continuation body while we're still alive, we'll know how to cultivate it to ensure a beautiful continuation in the future. This is the true joy of living. Then, when the time comes for the dissolution of our physical body, we will be able to release it easily. So the shortest answer to the question, what happens when I die, is that you don't die. And that is the truth, because when you understand the nature of the person who is dying, and you understand the act of dying, you will see there is no such thing as death anymore. There is no self that dies. There is only transformation. When we practice mindfulness, we can get many kinds of relief. But the greatest relief and peace comes when we are able to touch our nature of no birth and no death. This is something doable. It's something possible. And it gives us a lot of freedom. If we are in touch with our cosmic body, our God body, our nirvana body, then we are no longer afraid of dying. This is the cream of the Buddhist teaching and practice. There are those who can die happily because they have touched this insight.
And in a bit, as the ceremony continues, we'll stand, but since we've been sitting for quite a while, go ahead and if you've got your legs underneath you, go ahead and stretch them. We'll do this for about a minute before we stand so that we're sure our legs and feet are awake before we stand. We'll give the bow to stretch our backs a little bit too. Let's stand. And as we do our bows, we'll bow towards each other. And we'll just bow from the waist. It's a normal bow. The 5 awarenesses. You are invited to enjoy the practice of bowing during this reading of the 5 awarenesses. For ease, we'll just bow mindfully from the waist. We bow to each other as a manifestation of our respect to one another, evoking the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha in one another and in ourselves. We are aware that all generations of our ancestors, including our spiritual ancestors, and all future generations are present in us. Please bow. We are aware of the expectations that our ancestors, including our spiritual ancestors, our children, and their children have in us. We are aware that our joy, peace, freedom, and harmony are the joy, peace, freedom, and harmony of our ancestors, including our spiritual ancestors, our children, and their children. We are aware that understanding is the very foundation of love. We are aware that blaming and arguing never help us and only create a wider gap between us. That only understanding, trust, and love can help us change and grow. We can be seated.
So this part of our ceremony is called Mindfulness of Our Teacher. And so we're going to take a few minutes here to express gratitude to Thich and his teachings, to call to mind something you've read or heard, share whatever is in your heart in the spirit of loving kindness and compassion. So let us sit for a minute and breathe and allow Thich to be present with us now. So we'll have a few minutes for each of us to share, if we like, something that you learned from the teachings, or something you read, maybe a story about how his teachings have been important in your life. Whatever, any remembrance of Thich Nhat Hanh and the mindfulness that he taught us, the way he taught us to concentrate, so many things that we've learned. So if you like, you can bow in and share, and I will begin. So Bobby, bowing in. I was really, really lucky to see Ty in person. That was in 2011 at Magnolia Grove. And I never got really close to him, but you didn't have to be close to him to feel his presence. He was not a big man. He was probably not any taller than me. But his presence was enormous. And when he would come into the meditation hall, it's almost like you could feel that presence coming in. It was amazing. And I didn't know, this was pretty close to the beginning of my experience in this style of Buddhism. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I was a little bit surprised by his sense of humor and the way that he would kind of tell a little joke and then just kind of grin at you. It's just so cheerful and present, loving, all those wonderful things. Later I learned about his activity during the war, the Vietnam War, and then I saw a whole different side of him and came to appreciate even more how he lived and how his life was such an example in so many ways. So I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to see him in person. Bobby, bowing out.
Cornell bowing in. So I know that only a few of us in this room have met Thich Nhat Hanh or been in his presence in person. And even though some of us here in this room may have come to this center not really knowing the connection that we have with him, because it is a loose connection. There's no formal structure. There's just us and some many cousin sanghas that practice in this tradition. But even though you have not met him, you know his teachings because you've been here. And so when you're sharing tonight, know that the teachings in general, that we have here, maybe there's something that's rang true for you, even though you might not have direct experience of Thay's teachings from his voice or his physical body. When I was first in his presence was in 2007. And I was up close one day coming back from walking meditation, just right that far from him. And it was really a nice thing because, as you said, he's kind of got a good sense of humor because he's just solemnly walking. And for me, walking at 5:30 or 6 in the morning in the mountains in the cold, I wanted to hurry. But he was slow, and he just looks over and has his nice grin and walks forward. So that's one of my memories. And I'll share another, which is from the monastery in Mississippi. He was still alive at the time, but he was no longer traveling. That was back in 2019 or 2018. probably 2018. So he wasn't here and hadn't been in the U.S. for a few years. Anyway, at 6 in the morning and 6 in the evening, every day, the big bell outside sounds. And depending on who's doing the bell chant, it might sound for 5 or 10 minutes, or it might go on for a half hour. And tonight's bell meditation really had me thinking about how I'd enjoy going out. I'll do the 6 in the evening one, because the 6 in the morning one, I was enjoying the mindfulness of my dreams. But I'd go out there and sit, and because I just enjoyed hearing the bell every however much time in between. And so tonight, when we were doing this bell meditation, it was a reminder to me that the voice of unity that we all have, this ancestry of these teachings, how they're carried on for all of us. And anyway, it was a nice thing for me tonight to be reminded of the bell ceremony. Cornell bowing out.
I'm Aaron. I was very fortunate to be able to be around Ty quite a few times at the retreats, but just some standout memory. One, walking meditation at the end of it. I was headed back to the tents, and he was headed up to his hut. And there's a rock this is in Magnolia Grove. There's a rock that's standing out there, and I saw him. And I was walking towards the tent, and he just turned and looked at me. And I was like, it was like a piercing, and that's one of those moments where like you felt him transmitting, waking you up. In that moment, I was like, whoa. And I consider myself a disciple of Thich Nhat Hanh. We took the 14 under him, and so like when I went to Magnolia Grove this last holiday retreat, I was carrying his death in my heart, and I hadn't dealt with it really, but I saw him in all the monastics. Like, it wasn't like he was gone, and so it gave me a lot of, walking by the statue with Martin Luther King Jr., with the monastics, like, I still felt like he was walking with us, and even more than he was when he was alive. So it was like, his presence was even more powerful. But he really changed me. Like, his practices changed my entire life, helped me how to deal with my own suffering. And I've had lots of suffering in life. I think we all have, but he teaches us how to like do spiritual alchemy with it, and change it into something happy. And I see him still sitting with the children in the middle of walking meditation, doing a pebble meditation with them so sweetly. Just so many good memories of him. I'm just glad that I practice, and that's one of the vows that I've made to myself, is to really carry his practice in my practice, and every step that I take and every breath that I make, and throughout my whole life, I want to carry him with me and transmit it just the way he did that day. He was standing out there by that hut.
Fire Marion. I would like to say that while I didn't meet him, I find his story to be very inspiring, and it's inspired my practice as well. That he's able to do it amidst such circumstances with minor, much more doable. And along with that, I really love his teachings of engaged Buddhism and what it's done for the world. And it really inspires me to help out how I can as well. So I found him to be a huge motivator for me, even though he's already passed by the time I found most of his teachings.
Jen Ying. I have read his books and watched videos on YouTube, never met him. Before I thought, maybe one day I'll meet him. But I think one lesson is never to wait. I think maybe one day, if I had made the effort, I probably could have met him in person. What he impressed me most is his quiet strength and humility, never like showing anything other than being quiet and loving and kindness. And his focus on interbeing is a constant reminder of how we're all related, not only with each other, but also with nature, that we need to take care of each other, take care of all the beings. So that's a great reminder for us to live a life that to care about not only human beings, fellow beings, but also animals and environment.
And then bowing in, I did not meet him either. And I also started reading his writings much later. I think maybe a year before he passed. And the first book that I read was a translation that was done in Spanish, Art of Meditation. I believe that's how the title was translated. And the thing that resonated with me the most and what I took from him was compassion. Because he taught me how to let go and to feel like true and real compassion for myself and others. And then I read Living Buddha, Living Christ, and that continues the idea of interbeing. And also it impressed me a lot his activism in the war. And so compassion and interbeing were the two greatest lessons for me that Thich Nhat Hanh taught me. Then bowing out.
Alex, bowing in. I only started reading or learning about Thich Nhat Hanh's life after he had passed. But one of the things that stuck with me the most is his translations of some of the old Sanskrit chants. I don't think I ever would have encountered the Heart Sutra in the way that I did if I hadn't heard the chants that Plum Village sang with it, which cover his translation. So it's interesting how when you live a life like he has, the teachings permeate and you get it eventually, even so many steps removed. So that's it. Alex, bowing out.
Paula bowing in. I as well had the sound of the bell meditations have always just resonated so deeply in my brain. My brain just relaxes and I'm able to sink into deeper levels of meditation and just knowing that the pause that goes along with the sound of the bell, but just then continuing the pause in daily living was one of the teachings. And I've never met him either. I just read many books and listened to podcasts. And what I feel that he gave me the most is this sense of relationship with my heart, his gentle compassion. He was so friendly that it resonated deeply in my heart to be able to give that compassion and friendliness back to myself. And then the interbeingness and interconnection that provided. But I always like the meditations where you may focus on as I breathe in. I know I'm breathing in. As I breathe out, I may smile to my eyes, or I may smile to my cheeks, to wherever. And to hear in the morning when I wake up, to know that it's a precious day and not to waste this day, because I may not have another day in this form, and to also then hear, have you smiled yet today? All a bowing out.
Paul bowing in. I'll share a story that's only half mine, but Thich Nhat Hanh came and gave a talk at Harvard when I was there, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know what was happening. But my roommate went, and he came back, and he was just like glowing. You know, he just had that energy, and he was like, mindfulness, and I was like, what are you on about? It's like, oh, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh came, and it was just like the way he holds and drinks his tea. I was like, wow, I really need to kind of find out about this. And didn't for years, and then came across a book of his that I borrowed. I don't even remember the title of that one. Borrowed from somebody, and it was very dense, so I don't even think I got all the way through it, but it seemed very profound. And then finally, eventually, found this place, and have come to know the teachings much better, and I've read a few of his books. And I just love his facility with words and language, and the way he takes these very esoteric concepts and makes them so easy and digestible, and they just seem deceptively simple at that point. Or maybe they've been so simple all along. It was really the seeming abstruse that was the deception. So I just appreciate that. And then, so this friend of mine who saw him give that talk has since moved back to Houston, and so I've seen him a few times, and I've told him about coming to Sangha, and invited him, maybe he wants to join online sometimes. And I told him, like, you're the one who actually introduced me to Thich Nhat Hanh when you went to that talk when we were back in Cambridge. And he was like, I have no memory of that. I'm like, how did you forget? Like, I remember. So, who knows? It kind of lands how it lands. And we don't all right.
You're bowing in. I went to a birthday party today of a Vietnamese woman that I know. And there was about 35 people there. And they were just celebrating the New Year. It was quite festive. And her father, who it's hard to understand his English, but he told me that he followed Thich Nhat Hanh, he practiced the breathing, and it really helped him. He came over on one of these boats, for people who don't remember. It's pretty treacherous. What a lot of the Vietnamese had to deal with as we were fighting them. It was just a great opportunity to hear the few that talked to me. Most of them spoke English. It just reminded me how you know, how hard, all the hardships that there are, you know, we have it, or at least it occurs to me, have it pretty fortunate here, but people have to go to refugee camps. I mean, and Thich Nhat Hanh was aware, he was aware of the worst, of all these bombings of his people. Yeah, just compassion is, you said, that's the greatest gift, and also what Paul said, how he simplifies so many things. It's almost hard to believe are they that simple, but he really did he made a major contribution to Buddhism in America, making it palatable. Because Buddhism is not that old in the West. It's I was listening to someone talk about it, but I even think in the 1950s it was hardly unknown here. Yeah, so he did a major feat. I don't know what, I know he went to Columbia, I don't know what other universities. Just how many books? At least 20 books or something? You know, just like
He's written hundreds of books.
Hundreds.
Wow.
Hundreds of books.
Hundreds. In all different languages.
He taught it at Columbia.
Yeah, just yeah, major figure. I did watch a little bit of ceremony. Yeah, the Vietnamese monks really, the esteem, like we can't even imagine the esteem they hold this person. Kneel down here.
Jessica, following in. I first came across Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings thanks to a sorority sister of mine. I was going through a particularly challenging time in my life, and I just remember she sent me one of his YouTube videos and let me know that, you know, this teacher was someone who really resonated with her mother when she was going through a hard time. So I remember just listening and instantly feeling just a sense of peace and surrender. So I started listening to The Way Out Is In, the Plum Village podcast. And I just remember it became such a grounding practice. I listened to it every Sunday, and the amount of humor that is used in that podcast really just resonated with me, because life is hard already. It's so challenging, and just to see such respect for practices, but still the humility, the mindfulness, the humor that we can approach it with, it's so refreshing. And that's what this practice of meditation brings to me. I feel so refreshed each time, and I just have so much respect for Thich Nhat Hanh and his teachings that he really not only taught but embodied. What really resonated with me was his teachings of remembering the blue sky, and also of the cloud in our tea. So just, it talks about the cycle of birth and death, you know, of the cloud, and visualizing that cloud in our cup of tea. So those are the two major kind of teachings that really resonated with me, and I'm really looking forward to going with the Sangha and also just embodying the way that Thich Nhat Hanh has the teachings. Thank you, Sangha. Jessica bowing out.
do a second bow in. So Cornell bowing in. Since others were mentioning where they learned of Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching, I'll say I learned of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings through the founder of our Awakening Heart community and Dallas Meditation Center, and that was Brother Chising. And I don't know that I'd ever heard words of Thich Nhat Hanh before. They sounded familiar, so I may have, but I didn't really know until Chising had mentioned. And it didn't really ring, it wasn't so meaningful to me at first. It's like, oh, that's nice. But then as I continued reading and practicing the Sangha, it became a very powerful thing that I realized that, to quote Thich Nhat Hanh, I didn't have to go to India to find the Buddha. But then even though I say find the Buddha, but it's like that his practices are open to anyone and everyone. It's like I don't have to be Buddhist to go to his temple and practice the practices. And I don't even have to sit on a mat. I can practice them while I'm chatting with someone or walking to the car or anything. It's always there. And so I really appreciated that. And tonight I was really glad to have Brother Chising's voice here too. Many of you in the room know that the music we heard, the singing voice, was Brother Chising. So I was really glad, even though he passed, and we will celebrate him in a month and a half. It was really nice to have his voice in the room. And Chising, this will be not my story. Paul, it was only half yours. Chising's story was. Keep in mind, this was back in the 90s, so think about technology of the 90s. We didn't click something on our phone to record, or we may have just started burning CDs, and it probably took an hour and a half to burn one at that point. But anyway, it was when Thich Nhat Hanh was either in California, he was in California, he was either at Berkeley, or he was in Berkeley, or he was down near LA. Anyway, Chising lived in San Francisco at the time. And Thich Nhat Hanh's talks were being broadcast on radio. And Chising heard him start talking. Chising hurried and got a cassette tape and put it in and pressed record. Anyway, he said, so his driving around California and stuff, he said he played that tape in his car constantly for, he said, years. But anyway, that drew him to come to find Thich Nhat Hanh and start his path in the Plum Village tradition. So, and I think that story of ancestry that we are in our ceremony today, really that ancestry has come to each of us. And even though not all of us have met Thich Nhat Hanh in person, many of you didn't know Brother Chising, but yet we're all those ancestors. We are those ancestors. Everyone that we talk to is also an ancestor to us as well. So, thank you.
I just wanted to throw one thing in real quick. Chising was, I remember us getting a bunch of vans, or a couple of vans, and I helped drive. But we had the Sangha here. We all met up here, and we went to Magnolia Grove all together, and Saltai, all of us together from this. And just a really funny thing about Chising, when I picture Chising, I still remember him. We went to a modern museum, and he was standing under, I'll share this with you all if you want to see it, but he was standing under a piece of toast, pointing at it because it was so funny. There's always a picture, when you say Chising, I still remember him pointing up at the piece of toast, like going, oh, this is art.
Love it. Love it.
The funny thing about that trip to Magnolia Grove in 2011, yes, we rented 2 vans and drove. It took forever because we had to stop occasionally, quite a bit actually. But anyway, when we got there, it turns out that Chising had not registered.
Oh.
So he slept in one of the vans. And, it's like, it didn't make any difference. He attended everything,
Wow.
Crash the party at the monastery.
Yes. But, I mean, you know, he just had that kind of spirit. He just kind of knew everything would be okay. Anyway, so we can take another few minutes if anybody else wants to share. I don't want to kind of cut anybody off, but I also don't want us to just linger. Jared, did you want to say something earlier?
Sure. Jared, I was gonna bow, but okay. I just wanted to say that very grateful for Thich Nhat Hanh, and if anything, for the fact that this center exists. I came here probably a year ago now, just over, and I didn't know of any connection between the center and Thich Nhat Hanh. I didn't even know who Thich Nhat Hanh was. I think Jen was reading one of his books for the midday reflections. And finally I asked, and she said, oh, this is who Thich Nhat Hanh is. And I was going through a particularly challenging time, so I went to Half Price Books or Barnes & Noble and picked up one of his books and just started reading it. And it really resonated with me. In particular, there was some passage about how we need to give ourselves a break and allow ourselves to just sit and relax. And he likened it to the fact that, you know, animals aren't out there roaming the fields nonstop. They hibernate because they need to. And so that was very meaningful for me, and I started giving myself more of a break, having more compassion. And then just started reading some of his other books. And when things become a little overwhelming or I'm losing my center, they're just such a great resource. If you pop them open and, you know, some are a little longer. I've got one in my car right now that's, you know, like every page is 2 sentences and it's on love, and I can just flip through them. And, you know, it's almost like he said, okay, I know some days you're not going to want to read what I have to say. It's 50 pages a chapter. The heart of the Buddhist teaching isn't great every day for you, but this little flip book will be. So, yeah, I'm just grateful for him. His words are very comforting, always. So that's all.
Jane Boying again. Was that last month, a couple of months ago? I bought 2 books from here. I think it's called something Survival Kit.
Mindfulness Survival Kit.
Mindfulness Survival Kit. I gave a copy to a friend, and I started to read myself, and there's a lot of wisdom in a little bit small book, but a lot of wisdom. So I strongly recommend if you want to check out. We still have some copies. And one thing that came to my mind I really appreciate Thich Nhat Hanh is he never claimed to be like holy God. And there are many religious leaders, one way or another, like claim this holiness, godliness. He is one of the few who never claims the holiness, but there is a sense of holiness in him, and we always call him as a spiritual lead teacher, and that's very touching.
There's a story about I can't think of the first name. The minister, his last name is Merton.
Thomas Merton?
Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas Merton. Thich Nhat Hanh, they were visiting somehow, and he said he knew he had met a spiritual person by the way he closed the door. You know, because he did everything so mindfully. And it's like, you know, that's a trait that I would like to embody, and sometimes I feel like I can really do that, but other times it's like the mind goes, whatever. Anything else before we move on to the next piece?
I was just going to mention that if some of you don't know that over here on this altar, that's Thich Nhat Hanh on the left, the older guy. That's Brother Chising on the right. That breathe over there is by Thich Nhat Hanh's hand. That's some of his original calligraphy.
All right, let's go to the piece called Contemplation on No Coming, No Going. That's a practice song from Plum Village. So, Paul, you could go to that slide. So there you go. I have invited a few people to read these bits. So we'll read one slide and then allow a little bit of time to kind of contemplate what is being read. These are the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. So, Alex.
This body is not me. I am not limited by this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born, and I have never died.
So can you connect with some piece of that? I am not limited by this body, maybe. I am life without boundaries. Okay, next.
Look at the ocean and the sky filled with stars, manifestations from my wondrous true mind. Since before time, I have been free.
Okay, next.
Birth and death are only doors through which we pass, sacred thresholds on our journey. Birth and death are a game of hide and seek.
Okay.
So laugh with me. Hold my hand. Let us say goodbye. Say goodbye to meet again soon.
We meet today, we'll meet again tomorrow. We'll meet at a source every moment. We meet each other in all forms of life.
I'll read one.
I'll read a poem of Thich Nhat Hanh. This is one of the first times that I was asked to give a talk at a church. I used this poem as the basis of it, and that was, long ago, around 2008. This is The Good News. The good news they do not print. The good news we do print. We have a special edition every moment that we need you to read. The good news is that you are alive, and the linden tree is still there, standing firm in the harsh winter. The good news is that you have wonderful eyes to touch the blue sky. The good news is that your child is there before you, and your arms are available. Hugging is possible. They only print what is wrong. Look at each of our special editions. We always offer the things that are not wrong. We want you to benefit from them and to help protect them. The dandelion is there by the sidewalk, smiling its wondrous smile, singing the song of eternity. Lo, you have ears capable of hearing it. Bow your head, listen to her. Leave behind your world of sorrow and preoccupation and get free. The latest good news is that you can do it.
Yeah, so I want to thank you all so much for coming today. Thank you for the gift of your presence, and thank you for generating such a peaceful, loving energy. We are very fortunate to share such an inspiring teacher, and to have found this path to follow, and to have this wonderful Sangha to take refuge in. From his deathbed, the Buddha encouraged his disciples to take refuge in the teachings. Thai demonstrated being always centered in mindfulness of the breath, and all of his teachings are based in this daily form of engaged practice. Thai encouraged us to go as a river, to go as a loving Sangha, as friends on the path. He said that the next Buddha would be a Sangha. We hope that we can all continue to keep alive this energy of peace, mindfulness, and connection in our personal practice, to bring peace, compassion, love, and understanding to our families and communities, and continue to offer our energy to our beloved teacher. We're going to close with the song No Coming, No Going, and I think we have the words for that. It should be the last slide.
Oh.
So if you know it, join with me. But we'll sing it at least twice. So if you don't know it, you can listen and join in whenever you're comfortable. Just in case you can't all see all of that, it's no coming, no going, no after, no before. Exactly what we've been talking about. We don't come, we don't go, because we're always here in one form or another. I hold you close to me, I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me, because I am in you and you are in me. And this is how it goes. No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me. I release you to be so free. Because I am in you and you are in me. Because I am in you and you are in me. Let me take a sip. release you to be so free. Because I am in you, and you are in me. Because I am in you, and you are in me. So let's complete our evening with our closing chant. And after that chant, I don't know if there are any announcements, but we can do it after that, after the closing chant. And that is in your program, kind of at the bottom of the second page. Countless beings we vow to free, ceaseless afflictions we vow to end, limitless truth doors we vow to open, the deepest paths of awakening we vow to realize.
Amitabha.